Welcome to California Now, a podcast produced by Visit California. I'm Soterios Johnson. Summertime in California means perfect weather and amazing places to enjoy it. From action-packed theme parks to beautiful beaches to 9 endlessly scenic national parks. And this episode features experts on all 3. We start with Robert Niles, founder of Theme Park Insider.
To design a roller coaster, you have to be this blend of an artist and a sadist, or just somebody with a completely uncensored sense of adventure. And bless them for that.
After that, Keryn Means, who runs PCH Travel Magazine, takes us on an epic road trip to some of California's best beaches.
Everybody's doing their thing. There's kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding, anything you can do on the water. You know, I like to walk the beach, and, there's also enough rugged coastline that my kids could, rock hop right close to shore.
And John McKinney, who's authored many books on hiking California's national parks, shares a few of his favorite spots, as well as tips for avoiding crowds in places like Yosemite. That's all coming up on California Now. A recurring theme on our show is interviewing people with unbelievably cool jobs, and my next guest is a prime example. Robert Niles rides roller coasters for a living, and he writes about it for Theme Park Insider, as well as his weekly column in the Orange County Register. He's here, why else, to tell us about what's new and great at theme parks throughout the state. Welcome to California Now, Robert.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So, to start out, did you always know you wanted to write about theme parks and enjoy the rides professionally?
Oh, heck no. I've been a long time theme park fan. I think the earliest known picture of me is eating an ice cream bar at Disneyland when I was a little kid, sitting in a stroller. So, I've been doing theme parks for a long time, but I never really thought about that as a profession. I'm a journalist by trade. I've got a master's degree in journalism, worked in newspapers for years, but when the internet came along and I decided to dabble in that, I knew I'd had a background as a fan in theme parks. So I just kind of gravitated to that community and started publishing. And, it's the old Seinfeld thing, yada, yada, yada. And then next thing you know, I'm running themeparkinsider.com as my full-time job.
Oh, that is so great. So you kind of took this interest of yours, this kind of this thing that you did for fun, and you were able to make it into something professional, and also just adding value to just letting people know what's happening in that area.
Yeah, I'd worked in theme parks as well when I was in college and graduate school. I worked at Walt Disney World down in Orlando, Florida. So I'd had some, that's where the insider from Theme Park Insider comes from. So I'd had some experience inside the industry as well as being a fan. But I just, I love publishing. I love the interactive nature of all of this. So I guess it was inevitable that I was going to get into this one way or the other. And as far as making it my job, I discovered the nice thing about running your own publication is that you probably aren't going to fire yourself, or at least I haven't done it yet.
That's great. That's true. That's a really great perk. So before we get into the latest tidbits about specific parks, I wonder, what's your thought process for what makes a great roller coaster?
Wow. That really comes down to a lot of personal preference. But for me, it's just all about the way the various elements come together. It's like a symphony or any piece of music. It's not necessarily the notes. It's just, the way you string it all together, the composition of the thing. Just how does one element lead into the other and create a situation where you come off that ride going, wow, I want to ride that again. That was amazing. Because it goes right up to the edge of being too much, but doesn't go over it. And a bad coaster would be one where the elements are just all wrong. And you're just feeling like you rode in a dryer. rather than a washing machine or a dryer, rather than just this beautiful jet fighter soaring across the landscape.
It sounds like your job is too cool to be real. Do people ever think you're kidding when you tell them what you do for a living?
My kids joke that they absolutely hate the moment in meeting someone where they ask, so what does your dad do for a living? Because when they say, well, he rides roller coasters professionally, they just think you pathological liar.
Right.
That can't possibly be true. So I've been using this to embarrass my kids for years. So that's even more of a bonus.
It seems like these skip the line apps are all the rage right now at most parks. What are your thoughts about this trend?
Right now, it really just all comes down to, do you need it or not? I mean, that's what I tell people. If you've got the opportunity to go into the park and take a look, there's still other great ways to save time in theme parks that don't involve having to pay an upcharge for a skip the line. I mean, you pick the right time to visit, you get there early in the day, you pick the right things to do in the right order. And that's the sort of thing we cover on themeparkinsider.com all of the time. So I don't think people should feel the need that they have to buy these upcharge tickets. But if you have the ability, you've got the resources, and it's not a big deal for you. Yeah, they can be a wonderful time saver and an opportunity to get a lot more rides in during the day. It just again, all comes down to your personal preferences and what your situation is.
Right, right. That's great advice. Okay, so if it's all right with you, we'd like to go south to north, all right? So Sesame Place San Diego is the newest entrant in the field. What's your take on this Chula Vista park?
Yeah, SeaWorld took their old Aquatica park in Chula Vista and they've rebranded it Sesame Place. It's the first Sesame Place theme park on the West Coast. And you've still got all of those great water ride attractions, but you've got some dry attractions there, really aimed at kids, as you expect with Sesame Street being the franchise there. But they've actually got a physical Sesame Street. So even if you haven't watched that show in years and you're just a adult fan of that, you've got the opportunity to go take your picture on the stoop at 123 Sesame Street to listen to Big Bird reading you a story, to see Elmo and Grover and all of those great characters there. They've got a wonderful parade that runs there on select days as well. So it's a great nostalgia play for people who are a little bit removed from being a Sesame Street fan,
Hmm.
but also for kids who are watching that show on a regular basis. Is just a delightful opportunity again to enjoy a lot of great water rides and a few kiddie rides, and most importantly, time with all of those delightful Sesame Street characters.
Yeah, and what's so great about that Sesame Street, stoop and everything? It's right there, right as soon as you enter the gate. You're unmistakably, you know exactly where you are, and it's like you're transported immediately.
They don't make you go hunt for it. They know they know what you came there for, and they deliver it right away, which is wonderful.
Right, right. Okay, how about SeaWorld San Diego? That's just a few miles up the road. What's new there?
They have got a great new coaster there called Emperor. It is there's a roller coaster manufacturer out of Switzerland called Bollinger and Mabillard that is just famous among coaster fans around the world for, I was saying before about putting the elements all together right,
Hmm. Hmm.
and they are wonderful for doing that. They build just delightful, nice, reliable coasters that fans love. And this is their first of a model called a dive coaster that
Hmm.
we've seen here on the West Coast. And what's nice about that is it takes you up about 150 feet in the air, then points you straight down, looking at the ground, and drops you 90 degrees, face first, straight into the ground.
Unbelievable. I watched a
Um,
video of this online, and it just looks like just mind-boggling.
What's wonderful about though is just as you're hurtling towards your certain doom on the ground is that doesn't happen. Of course, it just swoops you into this wonderful turn,
Uh-huh.
and then just this delightful series of twists and inversions that just make it an exhilarating ride. And you've got that wonderful view up from 150 feet above Mission Bay,
Mm.
uh, with that nice San Diego breeze going by. Just a delightful attraction. Low key, SeaWorld San Diego is becoming this, kind of sleeper coaster park. They've
Mhm.
got that
Mhm.
great Manta terrain coaster there, Electric Eel that they came out with a few years ago there. That has some really unique elements on that. So for coaster fans, don't sleep on SeaWorld. There's becoming more and more available for the coaster fan down there.
Yeah, it's funny, you wouldn't think of SeaWorld as a place to go for, like, incredible roller coaster rides, but there you go, they have them.
Yeah, they've been dropping a lot of coasters at their parks across the country
Mhm.
recently, and from what I hear, there is more to come at San Diego. They have not announced it yet, but we're expecting another coaster to come in there soon. But for right now, go get your rides on Emperor. It's a wonderful attraction.
Absolutely. Alright, how about Legoland California in Carlsbad?
Legoland is just one of my favorite places to go spend time. My kids are grown now, so I'm a little upset that I don't get to spend as much time there as I did, because it is just the perfect theme park for families with elementary age kids.
Mhm.
It's there are just so many hands-on interactive attractions there that kind of go beyond just sit in a seat and go on the ride. You get in there, play with Legos, do a lot of interactive stuff. And what they've got this summer that just opened, it's called Lego Ferrari Build and Race, and you can build your own little Lego Ferrari race car and get it digitally scanned and go on kind of this virtual race around this Italian Formula One track, which is just an absolutely wonderful experience. And they've got this great photo op of this life-size Ferrari F40 that's made completely out of Lego.
Oh, cool.
Which is just I when I was there, I was trying to make a little key out of Lego to see if I could just start that car and take it home with me, and somehow I could never find the right combination of bricks to make that thing happen. But that remains my dream, is to have a Lego Ferrari, life size Lego Ferrari.
Right, right. Oh, that's hilarious.
That would have been my just fantasy as a child.
I mean, Legoland, California sounds like the perfect place to keep like a 9-year-old engaged, basically forever.
Or your inner 9-year-old
Right.
will be engaged there basically forever. I felt a little awkward at the opening there because all these kids are sitting there and they're building their little Lego Ferraris, and I wanted to just kind of push them all aside and say, no, I'm gonna do it. I remained a decent human being and waited my turn, because I had size and weight on all of them. I couldn't push them out.
You could have taken them on.
I didn't.
Absolutely.
I could have taken them.
Yeah.
But, actually, no, they would have ganged up on me, and it would have been really, really ugly. But yeah, that's the thing, though. It's just, it makes you want to play again. And it's so delightful to be able to kind of connect with your inner 9-year-old again and realize, oh, he or she is still in there, and it's still fun to play.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so, what about, let's see, are there any theme parks in Anaheim?
I think there's one there. You don't really hear about it that often. I mean, it's kind of like flying under the radar, but there's this little thing called the Disneyland Resort. I don't know if you've ever heard of it before.
Vaguely.
But they're bringing back all of their live entertainment. Their big spectaculars are all coming back this summer. They just brought back the Disneyland Forever fireworks, which were a big hit for its Diamond Celebration a few years ago. They've got all that wonderful projection mapping on Main Street in addition to the fireworks. And the Main Street Electrical Parade, celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, which, man, that makes me feel old. Legoland might make me feel young, but the fact that Main Street Electrical Parade has been around for 50 years. But yeah, it's still great. And they've got a brand new, grand finale float on there that's got a lot of new characters, including characters from Encanto, the big hit that Disney has. And Fantasmic is coming back at the end of the month. So yeah, lots of live entertainment. And of course, you can hug Mickey Mouse again, which I think a lot of people are really, really happy about.
Right. Nice to see things are getting back to normal. What about Knott's Berry Farm? What stands out there?
Talking about live entertainment this summer, they're bringing back the Knott Summer Nights, and they're bringing back Ghost Town Alive. This Ghost Town Live is basically, oh wow, how do you explain it? It's this kind of interactive adventure through Ghost Town. Think of it maybe as like a participatory Ren Fair for people who are really into the old West in California. But they've got characters all around there, and if you want to, they will kind of drag you into the story. They will give you things to do. You'll be running around Ghost Town like a character for as much of the day as you care to do that. And there's a big hoedown at the end of the day in the evening to celebrate all that. So there are a lot of people who are really just into, and it's different every time you participate in it. So a lot of people are really into this Ghost Town Live experience that Knott's is going to be bringing back this summer. And of course, all that Knott's summer entertainment. You've got live bands and DJs and all that sort of thing, and of course the attractions that they've been bringing out there, including the Return to the Fair Knott's Berry Tales that they came out with last year. That's still going to be around as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. I really love that whole kind of interactive, participatory experience, because you become a part of the whole event.
The one thing I think so many people missed over the past couple of years is just that social interaction, just the ability to get off of Zoom, get off the internet, go be with people in real space in real time, and just to go kind of live out the fantasies of a pretend storyline that you can do with Ghost Town Alive. So it just really hits on what I think a lot of people are looking for right now in this moment.
Robert, I'm really loving this whirlwind tour we're doing. It's kind of like the podcast version of riding a roller coaster. So let's keep
Absolutely.
rolling.
Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, let's roll up on Universal Studios Hollywood. What's on your radar there?
Yeah, Universal Studios Hollywood, they've introduced electric trams on the studio tour. Not all of the trams have been converted to electric yet, but the advantage there is you don't have that super loud diesel engine anymore. So you can hear a lot more of just kind of the details of what's happening there, and frankly, don't have the smell of the diesel engine
Mm-hmm,
either.
mm-hmm.
So you're there in Jaws and or Earthquake or Fast and Furious, so all the wonderful encounters that they have on the studio tour there. And it's just so much nicer to be able to kind of hear the sound design that have been produced for these attractions in a way that you haven't before, because you had the necessary sound of the tram vehicle that no longer have to deal with. So
Yeah.
look for the trams with Universal Studios in green,
Mm-hmm.
because they're being green by going electric,
Right.
as opposed to the traditional gold, and those are those there. Big other thing that I'm going to tell people to do for Universal Studios Hollywood this summer is next year they've announced that they're going to be opening Super Nintendo World, which is going to be a real life Mario Kart ride.
Oh,
It's going to be
wow.
wonderful. It's also going to pack that park with fans from all over the place
Yeah.
who want to go on Mario Kart. So if you want to get in before all of those crowds completely, slam that park,
Uh-huh.
it's nice to go in and get that visit in this summer and experience all the other wonderful stuff that Universal has before the crowds descend upon it for Mario Kart next year.
Yeah, no, that's a great tip. Absolutely. So, okay, so let's move on to Six Flags Magic Mountain. What's the latest going on there this year?
The roller coaster capital of the world is working very hard to maintain that crown. So they are debuting a new roller coaster this summer, Wonder Woman. It is going to be a single rail coaster, which is something unique in the Southern California market. Our friends up in Northern California got one of these a few years ago at California's Great America.
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting a new single rail roller coaster from a company called Rocky Mountain Construction. They're the ones who did the kind of the rebrand, rebuild of Colossus a few years ago, turning it into Twisted Colossus. So there are a lot of people who are big fans of Rocky Mountain Construction because they just have this wild gonzo attitude towards what roller coasters should do.
Uh-huh.
And with a single rail coaster, it's nice because you're all in single file. I mean, it's completely stable,
Okay.
but you've just got the idea of, wow, I'm on one rail here is in between two, and there's no one sitting next to me. And it just plays with all of your expectations for what a roller coaster should be.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden you're thinking, wow, I could fly off of this thing at any moment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And Rocky Mountain Construction, RMC, just does such a wonderful job of putting those elements together to amplify the feeling that you could go flying
Oh,
off
my
into
Lord.
space at any moment
geez.
here. So if you want to feel like Wonder Woman in that invisible plane,
Yeah, I was going to say.
you very much feel like Wonder Woman in the invisible, because you can't see anything around you but the air that you're
Wow.
flying
Oh,
through.
my gosh.
So I am really, and this is going to be like the biggest, fastest, tallest of this single rail model anywhere, like world record for this particular class. So even if you went on that Railblazer coaster up at California's Great America at some point, come on down to Six Flags Magic Mountain and check out, the Wonder Woman coaster that's going to be debuting sometime this summer, because it's going to be an even more amplified experience with that. And it allows Magic Mountain to hold on to its crown as the theme park with the most roller coasters anywhere in the world.
That sounds great. All right, so let's wrap up in the Bay Area. California's Great America and Santa Clara has some new attractions, I imagine.
Yeah, they're putting in a new scrambler ride called Liberty Twirler, but I think the big thing there for a lot of people is going to be the first full season for that South Bay Shores water park refurb that they did last year. That not everybody got the opportunity to experience because of the restrictions and capacity controls that were in place at the time. But it's wide open right now, so come check out what California great America has done with its water park. And then, across the bay up in Vallejo at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, they're bringing in a new spinning coaster called Sidewinder Safari. That's a Zamperla spinning coaster, kind of like if you think of a wild mouse kind of coaster that just spins because it's not chaotic enough on its own, just being a wild mouse coaster. You've got to start spinning as well, so you feel like you can just fly off of that thing at any moment. So
Right. So wait, when you mean spin, are you talking about the car that you're sitting in? Not only are you being propelled forward, but you're actually spinning like a top as you're being propelled forward?
yep, just think of that car as kind of like a circular tub as opposed to just a little box there, and it is just spinning along its way.
Oh my God. Where do the people come up with these things?
To design a roller coaster, you have to be this blend of an artist and a sadist, I believe, or just somebody with a completely uncensored sense of adventure, and bless them for that.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up, are there any like insider tips we should consider before hitting these theme parks?
Well, yeah, basically, as with anything at this point, you are rewarded for planning ahead. I mean, that's why we're out there at themeparkinsider.com. All of these parks also have their own social media feeds, their own apps, which definitely I encourage people take advantage of. You no matter what park you're going to, you want to have that park's app in place now. I mean, you're not going to find the paper maps that you had before. Everything is being done through apps these days, not just from buying the tickets, but reserving ride times, making reservations, even buying food through mobile order. Just like you use your phone to get your cup of coffee at Starbucks in the morning, you can order food in many of these theme parks, but you have to have the app. So definitely get a hold of the apps beforehand. Price around, looking for discounts on tickets. We have a lot of them at themeparkinsider.com, but social media feeds will tell you about discounts that are available as well. All of these things that you can use to just kind of make your day go a little bit smoother. But even if you ignore all of our good practical advice on all of these things, parks are just wonderful places, and you're going to have a good time anyway. So, go for it.
That sounds great. Robert, this has been so fun. Thank you so much for joining us on California Now.
Thanks for having me, and go have some fun this summer.
Absolutely. Robert Niles runs the award-winning guide themeparkinsider.com, on Twitter @themepark. As always, we'll have links to all the places we talked about on today's episode and lots more on our website, visitcalifornia.com/podcast. This is California Now. If you're enjoying the California Now podcast, you really should check out our archives. I've gathered insider tips and insights from locals like Chef Krista Ludke, the Food Network regular based in Guerneville, and Nikiko Masamoto, who works on her family's peach farm near Fresno.
Podcasting is my best friend on the tractor.
Incidentally, that's the same tractor she rode on her wedding day.
My best friends decorated, imagine like a big orange tractor with purple streamers everywhere.
The best way to find these episodes and many more is to subscribe. You can access our whole back catalog and get new episodes delivered straight to you as soon as they go live. Just go to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to the California Now podcast. Thanks. It might not be possible to imagine summertime in California without picturing a sunset over the water at a jaw-droppingly beautiful beach. My next guest runs a magazine named after a road that takes you to these special spots. Keryn Means edits PCH Travel Magazine and is here to tell us about an epic Route 1 road trip she recently took, focusing on the beaches and beach towns she experienced along the way. Welcome to California Now, Keryn.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So, Keryn, just to get to know you for a moment, you've been covering the world of travel for a while now, right?
Correct. I have been writing about travel for probably the past 12 years now, anywhere from heading to Asia with a toddler to wandering around Europe with girlfriends.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
what's the idea behind PCH Travel Magazine?
So, PCH Travel Magazine was an excuse basically for my family to discover our new home state. We moved from Washington, D.C., and I didn't want to get complacent. I didn't want to be like, okay, well, we live here now, and forget that California is a very long state with a lot to see and do. So, we could explore locally or even take a lot of weekend getaways and not have to think, oh, we have to go out of state or out of the country just to be able to get a break and a vacation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So where are you based in California?
I'm down in Long Beach, just south of Los Angeles.
Okay. And so what are some of the things you like to do in Long Beach that, people don't always know are there?
So, Long Beach is mostly known for the aquarium and the Queen Mary, and that's about all people do, and then they leave. Long Beach is actually much larger than you would think, and it has a lot of little communities. I always say it's a city with lots of villages in it, and you get to know your neighbors really well. And people actually look out for each other. Like I knew all my coffee shop people within a month. So my favorite area is on 4th Street, which is also known as Retro Row, where it's all locally owned businesses. We just got a new exotic plant shop, which I'm very excited about. And my husband's terrified for me to go into. But it also has like Little Coyote, which is more New York style pizza, which we're East Coasters originally. So that was
Right.
a really big draw for us, as well as a store called The Hangout, which was created so that the neighborhood people could hang out. It's part plant shop, part bookstore, part home decor, and then there's a wine bar and a tea bar in the back. And my favorite is they do Wine Wednesdays. So everything's kind of like half off or buy one, get one for a glass.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and those are the kind of places that really kind of make a community. So as somebody who's visiting the area, it's really a wonderful kind of way to experience what the locals experience and what it's like to live there.
Exactly. We like the downtown stuff, which has all the attractions, but then, we love the beaches that are here. And, you get closer to Belmont Shore neighborhood. And that's where like Long Beach really turns into like a beach town. It has 2nd Street, which has all the beachy shops and restaurants and everything that people expect in a beach town.
Right, right, right. So, as I mentioned in the intro, you recently went on an epic Central Coast road trip. I'd like to zoom in on a few specific stops in a moment. But first, can you give us kind of like a general overview of where all you went and like how many days you took?
Yeah, so we went up for our children's spring break in April and we had just over a week. We went from a Friday to the following Saturday. And we really tried to pace ourselves because it's really easy to get overwhelmed. And we stayed at least 2 to 3 nights in 3 stops so that we could just explore out of those 3 stops and we weren't constantly in the car and on the road.
Right, right. And so how old are your kids now?
My boys are 10 and 12 years old. And yeah, they have grown up traveling. So this was a no brainer for them.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, so let's go from south to north.
Yep.
I'm handing you the wheel. So where do you want to start?
So I want to start in Ventura, California, actually,
Okay.
which a lot of people I feel like kind of skip across, or they go to Ventura, they go to the Channel Islands and for the day, and then they leave.
So what were some of your favorites, spots in Ventura while you were there?
So we ended up just spending a morning there thinking, oh, we'll just grab a cup of coffee and then we'll keep going because we were headed up to Carpinteria and we did find a lovely coffee shop. But more importantly, we found a farmer's market, which for me, farmers markets really show you who the locals are. And also just it's a way to support the local community and the local farmers. And we've been to a lot of farmers markets up and down the coast. This was by far the cheapest one we've been to. And it was one of the largest ones we've been to. So I think for like the everyday person, it's a really nice place to be. Plus for me on Main Street, there was like 3 or 4 thrift shops. So I just went to town.
So what's next on our itinerary?
So next on our itinerary is Carpinteria, which I knew I wanted to spend some time in that town because I'd gone up to San Luis Obispo a couple months before and I'd stopped there for breakfast. And I just thought this was the cutest little town. They have the Lucky Llama coffee shop, which we went to every single morning. I got my acai bowl and my chai latte. My kids, got to play with all the dogs that had shown up. It was dog friendly. We did have our little 12-pound pup with us. So finding those dog friendly places was really key. It has a really nice beach. It's just kind of easy surf to kind of hang out on. And they have a lot of local little shops that you can pop in and out of, and including another thrift shop that also gives back to animals. So you're seeing a theme here with what I like to do.
Definitely between coffee and thrift shops and
Yeah.
pets. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But they also have a tar pits park, and the Carpinteria Bluffs Nature Preserve also has a lookout point to the seal sanctuary. Which is a beautiful little walk along the train tracks. And then you can see all these seals just kind of napping on the beach.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, we would later learn is like a thing on the California coast. The elephant seals and regular seals just, like to sunbathe as much as we do, I suppose.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so let's keep heading north.
Yep.
Where should we go next?
Let's stop in Pismo Beach and San Luis Obispo.
Okay.
I know that SLO, which is what a lot of people call San Luis Obispo, is a kind of bucket stop for people. And there's a good reason. I mean, it's a college town. It also has an old mission. It's just one of those really easy, pretty places to get lost. It does deserve much more than a day. So if you have the time, I would say stop and really explore. I've only ever kind of spent the night there or like passed through to see the mission and to wander around, grab coffee like usual. But down at Pismo Beach is a really great place for especially families to learn how to surf, just kind of poke around. And they also have a monarch butterfly grove. We had missed the monarch butterflies, but I already have a trip planned back for next winter so that we can see those stunning butterflies all in one spot.
Yeah. Yeah, there are so many cute little towns in this part of the Central Coast. I'm thinking about places like Cayucos and Cambria. Did you hit either of those?
Oh, yeah. So we kept going up, and Cayucos was actually a really big surprise for us. We were headed down to Morro Bay to see the famous rock. And we were just kind of like, oh, look, they have a pier. That's great. Let's go pop in there. They have a brown butter cookie store, which I thought was kind of weird, but then everybody was lining up to get them in this tiny little town.
And that's a good sign, right?
Yeah.
So you see a long line, you better get on it. Yeah.
It's 10 o'clock in the morning. Why are all these people getting cookies? I mean, I don't blame them. I like cookies. So we ended up getting ourselves some cookies from the Brown Butter Cookie Company. And, also, again, I got my coffee, but they at Cayucos Coffee, which was down the street. And they had some really cool antique stores, like Remember When.
So did you guys, hit the beach at all?
We did. We packed up our beach blankets and our beach towels. It was a bit cold and windy in April on the coast, which was kind of like a fluke week, apparently. But my kids are crazy. They go in the water in January and they don't care. As long as they can be near water and sand. And, I like to walk the beach and pick up rocks and see what's new there and what kind of shells they have. And there's also enough rugged coastline that my kids could rock hop right close to shore, which is always fun, and look in tide pools as well.
Yeah. I mean, even if you can't lie out or, go fully into the water, I still like walking on the beach at any time of year because it's just a really great environment.
Oh, absolutely. And we saw plenty of people out there. There was a lot of surfers, especially in Morro Bay, all in their wetsuits. And, everybody's doing their thing. There was kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding. Anything you can do on the water.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the beach was great. It has right by Cayucos Pier, there's a playground, and dogs are allowed to run around on the beach. And the kids had a lot of fun just kind of being kids, and they met other kids their age that they could kind of hang with for a moment. So they weren't just with mom and dad the entire time.
Yeah.
So we ended up spending a lot of time down in Cambria, where there was lots of shops and restaurants. And it was just this nice, slower pace that we needed. We hung out a lot on Moonstone Beach, which was beautiful and probably one of my favorite places to watch the sunset. And I already have my eye on a couple of the little one-story inns that line that beach, including the Cambria Beach Lodge, the Cambria Shore Inn. Really, you can't go wrong with any of those. And there's a little wine bar right on at one of those inns right on the water. So my husband and I kind of let the kids go free, and we sat down at Madeline's Wine Bar and just kind of watched the sun start to set, and then wandered over and had some dinner down the street.
That sounds great. So, like every one of these places they almost have their own little vibe and stuff. So, like Moonstone Beach, talk about what that is like for people who've never been.
So the one thing is, if you're going from south to north, you have to know that the beaches get rockier as you go. So in the Cambria area, there's more rocks on the beach, which are every color. Like there were green ones, there were pink ones, there were purple ones. It was the most
Hmm.
bizarre thing I'd ever seen, especially as an East Coaster who's used to like one kind of beach. And
Yeah.
there's also lots of driftwood. Sometimes you'll find some sea glass, but it's all usually like there's some kind of bluff that you have to like walk down, or a dune that you have to walk down to get to the beach. So it's just this more dramatic shoreline that you don't see as much, in Long Beach or even like Redondo. You might get it down towards Laguna a bit more when it gets more rugged. But I think that was the most exciting thing for us, is just seeing the landscape change so dramatically as you go from south up to the north.
Right. And we haven't even talked about the actual, in the car road trip driving up Highway 1.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just incredible vistas.
Oh yeah, that's like bucket list. And if you're going from Cambria up to Monterey, you're going to go through Big Sur, which is something that everybody should do and wants to do, quite frankly. Driving from Monterey down to Cambria should take you 4 or 5 hours. We took a solid 10, because it is small winding roads with so many turnoffs for like vista views
Hmm.
that my husband just like gave up driving and he let me drive, because he knew I was just going to pull off like every other second. He's like, okay, you just like stop where you want, and we'll go from there.
And when it comes to, pulling over at those pullouts, I'm sure that, it's very important to only do that at clearly marked official spots, right? You don't want to be pulling over just anywhere.
100%. That is one of the best things about the state of California, is they understand the views that they have. So there are several designated scenic overlooks with plenty of parking for everybody, because you don't want to pull off to the side of the road. You don't want to block the road. You don't want to put your car in a precarious position. So use those designated spots. If you feel like you're missing a shot because there's no pull off, just keep going, because there's probably one right around the corner.
So, Keryn, for people who've never been to Big Sur, what's like one place that they really should, make sure that they hit?
One place is going to be Julia Pfeiffer Burns State Park. This is where Macquay Falls is, which is that stunning waterfall that like hits the sand right on the beach, which is
Uh-huh.
something you really won't see anywhere else.
Yeah.
And you'll want to get there in the morning, because that is when the light is going to be best. The later you get in the day, the sun's just a little bit high and you're not going to get those stunning pictures that you see on Instagram all the time.
I mean, it's a fascinating place any time of day, but if you really want to optimize it, morning is the
Oh,
time
for
to go.
sure. And for anybody who's worried that it's a really strenuous hike, it's actually very easy. If it takes you 20 minutes round trip, you're just walking really slow.
Uh-huh. So what's one more thing people should know about this road trip?
I would always make sure, if you're passing a gas station or an electric charge station, you should fill up, especially once you're going to be in the Big Sur region, because there's just not as many stops along the way between Cambria and Monterey if you're going to stick to the PCH.
Not a lot of like development along the way. So like if you see a gas station, pull over, fill up, and then you're set.
Yeah, like make sure you got a full tank, make sure you have snacks and lots of water, and know that restroom facilities are there, just they might be far and few between.
So Keryn, what are some tips for people who are, wanting to take a beach town road trip like this?
I would always say take your time. Remember that California coast points west, so the sunsets are worth stopping for every single time. No matter where you are, just pull over and
Uh-huh.
watch that
Uh-huh.
sunset, because it is magical and every day is a little different. Take time to walk the beaches. The sand does change as you go. As we already mentioned, the rocks are there. There's some that have shells all over them. Just be open to more spontaneity than you think that you'll need. Sometimes people just plan everything down to the minute, and that's not how you want to do a PCH road trip at all. You want
Right.
to, pick your spot that you're going to sleep that night and give yourself the day to get there, so that you can really see everything that you want and not be disappointed. But also remember that sometimes road trips are scouting trips. we're going back to at least 3 places that we went to so that we can really start to dig in. But we would have never known about them if we hadn't taken a road trip.
Yeah. Keryn, this has been delightful. Thank you so much for joining us on California Now.
Thank you so much.
Keryn Means runs PCH Travel Magazine online at pchtravelmag.com and on Instagram at PCH Travel Mag. This is California Now. When it comes to national parks, California offers both spectacular bucket list destinations like Yosemite and some lesser-known spots that are worth planning a trip around. My next guest has hiked throughout California for decades and knows the state's trails as well as anyone. John McKinney has written extensively about hiking, and 10 of his books are about to be released as the Hiking California's National Parks Collection. We're delighted to have you on California Now, John.
Great to be here.
So let's start with the big picture. What's special about California's national parks?
Other states have national parks with tall trees and high peaks and deep canyons and really long seashores and even vast deserts, but only California has all of these grand landscapes within its boundaries. And California has 9 national parks, the most in the nation, along with a bunch of other national park lands like national recreation areas and historic parks and a national preserve. And the state features one of America's oldest national parks. That would be Yosemite, set aside way back in 1890, and one of the newest, Pinnacles National Park, that was preserved in 2013.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about a lot of them in depth a little later. But before we go there, are there any kind of like facts or figures that can help put into perspective how immense California's national parks are?
Yes, the largest national park in the contiguous U.S. would be Death Valley with more than 3.3 million acres. So there's some really large parks.
Right.
And there's a whole range of superlatives. The world's tallest tree, that would be a giant redwood named Hyperion, 380 feet tall in Redwood National Park.
Amazing.
Everybody knows about the world's largest tree. That would be the General Sherman tree, with a huge circumference, and that's in the giant forest area of Sequoia National Park. We've got the highest waterfall in North America. That would be Yosemite Falls in Yosemite National Park.
Yeah. So tell me about your new collection of books. What sets it apart?
Along with my passion for hiking, I have a passion for storytelling. And my guiding principle is every trail tells a story. So, along with giving some directions and some good maps, I like to tell the tale of every trail, what makes it different, and the wonderful parks that the trails explore.
That's great. So let's zoom in on Yosemite for a moment. What are some ways I can explore that park beyond the expected?
If you want to escape the valley, I'd say head up to Glacier Point on the 4-mile trail. That's just a total classic, and you get these views of Yosemite Falls and El Capitan and Half Dome and Vernal Falls. And then take the shuttle bus up to Glacier Point and hike down to the valley on the Panorama Trails and the John Muir Trail. That's just a beautiful trail going down. And you also see Half Dome and Clouds Rest. And that's a long hike, but it's all downhill from Glacier Point to the valley, nine miles.
So, John, I know a lot of people, when they think of Yosemite, they think of, kind of, entering it from the Yosemite Valley side. But there's another way into the park from the east. And, what kind of an experience can people have doing it that way?
You get a wonderful view of two sides of the Sierra. You start from the dramatic east side of the High Sierra, and you enter the park via Tioga Road and come over Tioga Pass, which is quite high, quite lovely. And you motor into the park, and shortly thereafter, you've arrived at Tuolumne Meadows, and perhaps the most beautiful High Sierra meadow, and some easy hikes there.
Yeah, it's really great that you can kind of, get a whole different perspective and experience of the park just from entering it from a different way. Let's turn now to Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks. What's special about these two side by side parks?
Sequoia and Kings Canyon have the scenery, they've got the postcard views that are found in the country's most famous national parks, but you have to hike to find them. The largest sequoia groves on the planet are found in Redwood Canyon in Kings Canyon National Park. I mean, there's like 15,000 trees and 4,000 acres and a dozen miles of trail through the old growth. And they're not the tourist attractions with the paved trails that the General Sherman tree and the General Grant tree, which is the world's second largest tree, have. So that's kind of getting away from it all. And you can only explore Redwood Canyon on foot.
What about Muir Grove?
It's small, but you have the feeling like you're going on an adventure because it's not part of a larger grove. From the grove area, I would say to also experience Sequoia Park is take a hike to some of the High Sierra lakes. And one of my favorite is Heather and Pear Lakes, and it's got this wonderfully appropriate name, Lakes Trail, and it goes to Heather and Emerald and Pear Lakes, and I think it's the best backcountry hike in Sequoia National Park. It's about 8 miles round trip to the lakes.
Are these swimmable lakes?
Oh, if you can get in and stay in the glacial melt.
And, of course, it'll be the busy season this summer in the parks. Any advice or tips or tricks for avoiding crowds?
Well, certainly the redwoods are uncrowded. I mean, natural wonders, fern-filled canyons, and this wonderful wild 40 miles of coast, and of course the tallest trees on earth. And national park visitors are very few. The redwoods are rarely crowded, and the hiking is great.
So anyone maybe visiting San Francisco, this would be a nice kind of excursion from the city, a few hours, maybe not a few hours north, but several hours north of San Francisco, right?
Yeah, it's almost a different state up there in the fog and the big trees. And for visitors and hikers, there's great excitement. There's a new trail added to the park, and it has this wonderful name called the Grove of Titans. And the park authorities built this elevated boardwalk. It's very mysterious. And you can get to this small but spectacular grove of some of the tallest trees on earth.
That's really great. So, John, before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you about Point Reyes National Seashore. I know it's technically not a national park, but it is still pretty special.
There's this national parkland just 35 miles north of the city of San Francisco. It's got forested ridges and these wild open coastal bluffs and these deserted beaches with elephant seals on them. It's a really unforgettable place to ramble. It's one of my favorite places in California.
Are there any trails or sites within Point Reyes that are not to be missed?
Well, you just have to go to the lighthouse. And a related trail that I love is called Chimney Rock. And you wander along the headlands and you get to the edge of a precipitous cliff, and you look down and there are all these elephant seals barking away. And it's a magical place.
That sounds really great. Well, John, this has been really fun. I mean, I can't wait to hit the trail myself. Thanks so much for joining us on California Now.
Well, thanks for having me, and happy trails.
John McKinney is a hiker and author. His newest release is the 10-book Hiking California's National Parks Collection, which you can find online at thetrailmaster.com. As always, we'll have links to all the places we talked about on today's episode and lots more on our website, visitcalifornia.com/podcast. This is California Now. Thank you for listening to California Now. We hope to see you in the Golden State soon. This podcast is produced by Visit California. I'm your host, Soterios Johnson. You can find our show on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're looking for more travel ideas and inspiration, follow Visit California on TikTok. You'll meet insiders who share their favorite local spots and learn about all sorts of cool attractions like the 680-foot-tall Eureka Dunes in Death Valley and the Seven Bridges Hike in San Diego. Check it out. The TikTok handle is @VisitCalifornia.